My friends, today we will talk about the most powerful mercenary group in the world, a group that was extremely mysterious at the beginning of its formation but has recently made headlines and in recent days threatened to stage a coup in the second largest military power in the world. I want to ask you to enjoy the video, and if you like it, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video how you think this will end. And now let's go to the video. The Wagner Group is a private army of mercenaries that rebelled against the Kremlin and was founded in 2014. Initially, it was made up of highly qualified elite ex-soldiers, and it is now widely agreed that the Wagner Group is the largest private army in the world and acted as a rapid and unpunished action force for the Moscow government. Although the Russian constitution does not allow for the establishment of private military companies, there are legal loopholes that allow the group to operate. However, the official structure of the Wagner Group remains a great mystery, as all access to this documentation is vetoed by the Russian government. Although many speculate that the company is formally registered in Argentina, others believe that it does not have a formal legal identity. This organization was founded at the end of the First and Second Chechen Wars. The founder was a lieutenant colonel named Dimitri Utkin, an admirer of Hitler who liked composer Richard Wagner and even used Wagner as his war name. In 2013 he left his military career and was sent to Syria by Slavonic Corp security company to protect oil pipelines and refineries. However, after a disastrous operation in October of that year in which Utkin saw 6 of his men killed by enemy forces, he decided to abandon Slavonic Corp and create his own organization based on successful Western organizations such as Blackwater. Thus he founded what would become the mysterious Wagner Mercenary Group. Interestingly, the name Wagner comes from Utkin's war name. Another important point is that the company is also named Wagner in homage to German classical composer Richard Wagner, Adolf Hitler's favorite. Utkin himself is associated with various supremacist groups and has had photos published showing SS insignia at the base of his neck and a Reichsadler eagle on his chest. If Utkin is the executor, then Yevgeny Prigozhin is an even more powerful strategist. He is a powerful Russian magnate who enjoyed close ties to Putin and was known as Putin's chef. Prigozhin owned a chain of restaurants in Russia that always received Putin and foreign dignitaries. He also owned or still owns a series of other obscure companies accused of interfering in other countries' electoral processes to ensure Russian interests. The first armed actions of Wagner Group were in February 2014 in Ukraine, which at that time was undergoing serious turmoil that culminated in the deposition of former President Viktor Yanukovych. As a result, Putin ordered the annexation of Crimea. During this operation, Wagner mercenaries became known as Little Green Men because they wore only their green uniforms without any insignia. In early 2015, Wagner Group supported separatist forces in the Battle of Debaltseve, a city located southeast of Luhansk still controlled by Ukrainian forces. Utkin personally commanded mercenaries directly engaged in combat. Despite multiple casualties among dead and wounded, they managed to expel enemy forces on February 18. Utkin himself was seriously injured with shrapnel from a grenade piercing his liver. After its operations in Ukraine, the Wagner Group grew impressively. When Putin decided to support dictator Bashar al-Assad against rebels and Islamic militias, the Wagner Group acted on the front line with 1,500 mercenaries. At first, the Wagner Group protected oil pipelines and natural gas wells, but gradually began to perform more relevant tasks in the conflict. In 2017, the Wagner Group had a great opportunity when the Syrian government offered an innovative contract proposing that private organizations that could capture and protect oil refineries and infrastructure would have the right to keep a percentage of the profits generated by oil exploration. This proved to be very lucrative for the Wagner Group. By 2017, they already had 5,000 mercenaries and 6,000 in December of the same year. With regard to their recruitment and membership processes, the Wagner Group was deeply selective, with most coming from Russian special forces and graduates of the Russian Military Intelligence Agency. The rest were made up of Chechens and Ukrainians with an average age between 35 and 55 years. During training, recruits cannot access social networks or other internet resources. One of the most rigorous criteria for becoming a member is signing a 10-year confidentiality agreement. In case of breach of confidentiality, the company may terminate the employee's contract without paying any compensation. Employees cannot post photos, texts or recordings on the internet obtained during training and cannot reveal their location. Cell phones and other means of communication are confiscated and can only be used with authorization from the commander. Passports and other documents are retained and employees receive an identification tag without a name, only with a personal number. It is known that Wagner Group operated in Syria, where Vladimir Putin's government supports Bashar al-Assad's dictatorship, and in Libya aligned with rebel leader Khalifa Haftar. Also in African countries such as Mali, Mozambique and Central African Republic. In the latter country, according to a UN report last year, Russian armed groups helped the government in cases of excessive use of force, civilian killings, school occupations and large-scale looting. It is believed that Wagner Group is also helping Venezuela set up its own elite units. In 2022, in the context of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the group launched a major campaign to recruit new soldiers and opened vacancies for tens of thousands of prisoners being offered pardon for their sentence in exchange for a 6-month contract with the private armed fighting company. All this with the consent of the Russian government. With such growth, the group now has enormous power and currently operates fighter jets in Libya and fighter jets and rockets in Ukraine with multi-million-dollar operational expenses. Many of these equipments come from North Korea. Recently, what was once an alliance has become a problem for the Russian government. The disagreement between the Russian government and the mercenaries escalated after the group's leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, accused the army of bombing their bases near the front line of the war in Ukraine. The fact was promptly denied by the Russian army, calling the accusation a provocation. As a result, Russian security services opened an investigation against Yevgeny Prigozhin for attempted mutiny. He promised to retaliate with force, insinuating that his forces would destroy any resistance and even saying that they were 25,000 strong and would find out why there is so much chaos in the country. Prigozhin then made a series of threats to the Russian government and marched with his troops to the Russian city of Rostov, taking the city and heading towards Moscow. The Russian government had to organize a series of defense measures in preparation for what could be a bloody confrontation. Chechen troops were diverted to confront Wagner Group, and with the imminence of combat, Belarusian dictator Lukashenko offered to mediate an agreement with Russian President Vladimir Putin since he has personally known Prigozhin for about 20 years. The agreement mediated by Lukashenko caused the mercenary forces heading towards Moscow to retreat. He gave the order in an audio shared on the group's networks, and hours later Prigozhin and his troops were seen leaving Rostov. Moscow's representative said that other members of Wagner Group will not be persecuted, considering the efforts of the mercenary team that acted on the front line during the war with Ukraine. Putin's government has never been as threatened as it is now. It remains to be seen how things will develop after all these events. Wagner Group has been like a rabid dog for Kremlin, acting in service of Russia and bringing Russian influence and brutality to places where regular forces would have complications to operate. However, the bloodthirsty rabid dog rebelled against its creator. Is Prigozhin now in danger? After all, we have seen over the years that Putin's enemies usually have many problems staying alive. The future will tell. We will have to wait for their next steps. Dear friends, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Share the video and leave a comment telling us what you think might happen. With Wagner Group's leader now close to Putin's most loyal ally, could this be a Trojan horse given by Putin? A hug to everyone and see you in the next video.